Hello everyone, I'm Molly the Kush RN, and today we are broadcasting live from the Dope Roots Women in Cannabis event, and I have the pleasure of sitting down with someone that hopefully will become near and dear to my heart, Ms. Sarah Slater. You have a business in cannabis, correct? Mm-hmm. So tell me about that.
So it's fairly new. My business is called Balanced Cannatherapeutics in Pediatrics. And so the goal of it is to kind of help bridge the gap between healthcare and cannabis as medicine, because there's a major gap there, and try to merge them together.
What inspired you to get this business kind of up and running? What were you seeing?
Yeah, so I am a pediatric oncology nurse practitioner. In my line of work, I certify kids for medical cannabis. And after some time of doing that, you kind of started to grow frustrated with the fact that so many families, they're asking, what will I use? Where do I buy it? What are the side effects, whether it's good or bad? And it's always like, I can certify you, and I know it helps for pain and might help prevent weight loss and nausea and neuroprotective effects. But other than that, I don't know anything. Let me certify you. And now you're going to go to the state and they'll tell you what to do. And I just think as a provider, that's really frustrating. I believe we should be owning that practice and incorporating it with the work that we do, rather than it just being something that's off to the side that we just don't manage at all. And so I grew frustrated. I wanted to learn more, learned about the endocannabinoid system, and then it just like blew my mind, and I became obsessed with it and wanted to help promote some positive change.
Yeah. What are some of the biggest misconceptions that you come across when you say the word cannabis? Sometimes that can be really triggering to people, right? So talk about that.
I've found, there's a lot of skepticism. There's a lot of fear of addiction. What I've come across with other providers is fear of potential like mental health issues caused by cannabis. And so I think there's a lot of conversation around all those topics.
How are you addressing them?
I try to, when I meet resistance, I very much kind of try to be like, okay, well, these are my beliefs and I'm happy to share my research or my sources of information with you. And I try to just have a very open, calm, non-judgmental type of conversation with the provider. Right. It's, I always find that time is the biggest barrier to everything, because like to have enough time to sit down with another provider and actually have a full conversation and get to talk about the research behind it, like that's really limited. Yeah, right. So it's hard to change ideas, but I do get to at least like voice my opinions and experiences and share that. Yeah.
Are the patients just as hesitant, or is it more pushback from providers or patients?
My personal opinion is providers. Mm-hmm. It really is. And I think it's because you want to be safe. You want to make sure you're doing what's best for your patient. You want to stay within the boundaries and not create issues with whoever you're working for. Right. And I think it's also not having enough knowledge. Yeah, this is all new information. And you don't want to practice it if you just don't know.
Right, this is all new information, right? Yeah. Which is why I think it's a natural fit for nurses to be kind of doing this work. Mm-hmm. We are the educators of patients, and so it's nice when a provider can be like, yeah, I might not know that much about this topic, but I know this great nurse that has really great information and can guide you in that process. Yeah. So,
and there absolutely needs to be more, kind of like what the ACNA is saying, like let's have a nurse in every specialty. And I would argue that oncology is very much probably should be at the forefront too. I mean, there's a lot of other areas too where it should and it is, but.
And purely in cannabis too, just as a cannabis nurse clinician, I think that is something that going forward really needs to shine through. I'm always looking to elevate our profession. So what advice would you give to nurses or other medical professionals that are curious about entering the cannabis space?
Learn. Like, I started with Google, and if you just take the time to Google, which of course they say stay away from Dr. Google, but The resources are there, and there are a lot of good educational resources out there. Talking about Bonnie Goldstein again, she has a free course for healthcare practitioners. All they have to do is certify their or provide evidence of their license, and then it's verified through her business. But she's got wonderful information and presentations and research, and it's all evidence-based, and it goes into talking about the nitty-gritty way that cannabis works on our endocannabinoid system and the neurotransmitters and receptors. And it's very sciencey, and I think what practitioners and providers and nurses enjoy learning, just the basic evidence-based science behind it.
And breaking that down, right? Breaking that down so that it's tangible at the bedside or in a clinic setting for a patient to be able to understand and take that knowledge forward and really apply it to themselves. So, thank you for that incredible work that you're doing.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
And now you're becoming one of those trusted resources, right? So if people want to reach out to you and access you and utilize your services, how can they reach you?
Yeah. So I am at, I have my website, www.balancedcannatherapeutics.com. And then I'm also Sarah at Balanced Cannatherapeutics, and my Instagram, just Balanced Cannatherapeutics. And I am there, and I love talking about it. So if people have questions or anything, like, I can talk about cannabis all day long now. I'm kind of obsessed, so I'm happy to, chat with anyone.
It's great when you can live your passion every day, right?
It is.
Yeah. So it makes it easy to go and do your job.
It is. When I feel like it's something that can really help.
Yeah, right. I'm sure you've seen it many times over where it's really improved people's lives. Yeah. So, awesome.
Absolutely.
Any final thoughts that you want to give to my audience?
No, just if interested or curious, questions, it doesn't matter. I'm happy to talk, and I hope to connect with more people. So.
Awesome. Yeah. Thank you for your time today, Sarah. Yes, it was really nice meeting you.
I've worn many hats in cannabis. I've been working in cannabis since the late aughts and worn quite a few different hats. Currently, I am working to develop my company, which is a terpene tasting kit. It's an educational tool that uses the 6 superclasses of terpenes as to develop the lexicon and the palette for the end user to teach and educate about craft cannabis.
And how did you come to the how did the terpene tasting kit come about?
So through one of the hats that I was wearing back in the day. So in the late teens, I was the managing director of a national nonprofit called the 420 Archive. I come to cannabis from academia, actually. Academia with a huge passion for cannabis as medicine. But I come to cannabis from business and academia. And in the late teens, I was the managing director of an organization called the 420 Archive. We were a national nonprofit, 501c3, that was collecting the history of cannabis prohibition in the United States. And our focus was really on the people's history. So we wanted to, we took a lot of lessons from the repeal of alcohol prohibition, did several years of due diligence before we even filed for our 501c3. And that was back in, I want to say 09, 10. But we were collecting the people's history of cannabis prohibition. We were seeing folks, 90 years after the repeal of alcohol prohibition, we were starting to see people who were really proud of Uncle Charlie, who used to drive his milk truck from Hastings, Minnesota to Chicago once a month. And those were the folks, to us, that was the real story behind cannabis. It wasn't the folks who were making the headlines. It was the folks who were participating in a prohibition market in order to feed their families. This is in addition to their regular jobs as teachers, milk delivery people, farmers. These were folks who they weren't the people you think of when you think of criminals.
Right.
They were just the average person. It was the average person who's just trying to get by. And that is truly the story of cannabis. And cannabis has been part of been part of human heritage since before we were Homo sapiens, since we were Homo erectus. So it was just very compelling to a lot of folks. And I ended up spending a fair amount of time in Northern California, hanging out with farmers and conducting oral histories, long way back around, talking with farmers and collecting and gathering their oral histories. And through that experience, I spent a lot of time with farmers in their nurseries. And they were always talking about, oh, I'm looking for more myrcene in this. I'm looking for more caryophyllene in that. I'm looking for to pull this out in order to get different effects. So this is back in 2017, and I was in a nursery on Navarro Ridge, which is on the Mendocino coast ish. And I was with my friend Brett, and he was talking to me about myrcene, and I looked at him and I said, well, what's myrcene? And he's like, oh, well, it's this terpene and blah, 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 blah. It's like, well, what does it smell like? He's like, well, it smells like fuel, but it also kind of smells like fruits. Right. I'm like, really? Because those things have like no relationship to me. Like, what does myrcene smell like? So that's right there was I lived through the wine tasting kits in the 90s. And then the subsequent chocolate tasting kits and coffee tasting kits and scotch tasting kits. So that was my light bulb moment of, there should be a terpene tasting kit. And then in 2019, I actually developed my first kit. It used the eight most common terpenes found in cannabis. And then in 2021, I started the Ganjier program. And through that education, I was presented with the 6 super classes of terpenes. 95% of all commercially available cannabis in the United States falls into one of these 6 super classes. Awesome. So I was like, well, 6 of 200,000+ terpenes that are available in nature, and then over 200 that are available just in cannabis, all of 95% of all commercially available cannabis falls into one of these 6. That's super manageable. So I restructured the kit, and then I also included a number of your standard palate development exercises.
Awesome.
And that's what you'll see up here, because terpenes are found in everything. And learning to identify caryophyllene is kind of like learning to identify, at some point you learned what the color blue was. So smell like colors, smell like sight is subjective. But we have language, we've developed language so as to communicate with each other what we are experiencing. It's a classification system. So that's what the terpenes are. The terpenes are a classification system. And it's a shared language that is important to understanding craft and the medicine. Right. Because you need to have that shared language in order to ask for and receive what you want. Okay. So if and why terpenes? Because we test for them. They're on the COA. So even if you're going into a dispensary and you can't open up a jar and smell what terpenes are in there, you can look on the COA and say, wow, I'm looking for something to calm a racing brain. Well, that's caryophyllene. Look on the COA, ask for something that is caryophyllene dominant.
So I often tell people terpenes are the things that are within the cannabis that are going to help you dial into the thing that you want to affect, whether it be I need a better night's sleep, or I need to help with my social anxiety, or I need something that's going to help me get going in the morning. So that's where terpenes are helpful, and that's where those come into play. So let's have a demonstration of how your kit works.
Cool. Well, and to add on to that, knowing your terpenes are how you are empowered to curate your own experience.
Exactly.
So you can be intentional in your consumption, not just medicinally, but also for effects, and curate your own experience. Caryophyllene is great. For me, it stops the racing brain. If I just need to get out of my head, I'm looking for something that's caryophyllene dominant. If I'm looking for something that is also physically relaxing, I'm a muscle relaxer, I want to look for something that's morphine and caryophyllene co-dominant.
Awesome.
So
show us how it works.
Super quick. Okay, so you didn't learn blue in a day. You're not going to learn your smells in one day.
Okay.
So what I want you to do is I want you to open up the vial, take 3 quick sniffs, pull it away from your nose, bring it back, take a deep smell, pull it away from your nose. And while you're doing this, what you're doing is you're building a memory pathway.
Okay.
You're not going to get it in one. You might, but don't put that. It just takes time. It's repetition.
Okay.
So say to yourself, caryophyllene.
Okay. Okay, caryophyllene.
And then what I want you to do, and open that vial as many times as you need.
Okay.
But I want you to look for, so cinnamon, allspice, and cloves, we know that those are all really high in caryophyllene.
Okay.
So open those up.
Thank you.
And what I want you to do is look for this smell in that jar. What you're doing is you're now not just teaching your brain what caryophyllene smells like, but you're teaching your brain to identify it in a sea of other smells.
Okay.
And
Go back to this.
you're building your palate. You're building your lexicon for your palate, so that when you go and you are looking to describe a flower that you're really enjoying, you can say, "Wow, I really smell cinnamon in that. I smell the caryophyllene. I smell the cinnamon." You have those adjectives. You have that language to communicate your experiences.
And there's 6 major ones.
There are 6 super classes. There are over 200 terpenes available in cannabis. Very common, but not included in this kit, are linalool, humulene, and geraniol. They're very commonly found in cannabis, but I didn't include them in this. That would be kind of next steps.
I think the easiest to identify is within the cloves.
Yes.
Okay.
Enthusiastic agreement.
Okay.
That's an easy one.
Yeah.
It's not easy.
Yeah.
It's easy for some.
Yeah.
So some people, and that's the thing about subjective experiences, it's based on not only your physiology, but your life experiences. So if you had never smelled cloves before, you wouldn't necessarily find the caryophyllene in that. Or if you're from a culture that uses a lot of allspice. So Americans don't use a huge amount of allspice. I mean, well, Scandinavia, we do here in Minnesota.
Yeah.
Parts of the country are not huge consumers of allspice.
Yeah.
But they are in others. So did you find the caryophyllene in that?
Definitely smell it in here. Yeah. And it almost precisely matches it, I feel like.
I did kind of pick that one because it's pretty easy.
So
I didn't go for a really high level of difficulty.
Perfect. That's what I need.
Out of the gate.
How does this translate to the everyday user then? How does this help consumers?
Well, knowing how your body responds to the different terpene superclasses empowers you to curate your own experience. So if you are in a dispensary, then you are looking for something that you want for it to calm your racing brain, then you would go up to the counter and say, "I'm looking for something that is caryophyllene dominant." For me, caryophyllene is often found with limonene. I know for myself, limonene gives me a little anxiety. It's not my favorite. I love the way it smells, but my body doesn't react to it that great.
Sure.
So I will intentionally choose chemovars varietals that are, and strain names are notoriously unreliable.
Right.
Notoriously. Strain names are virtually, they're not, let's just keep it not reliable.
You have to tell people, don't focus on that because
and THC, like you don't go to a wine bar and ask for shots of Everclear. You go to find and that's, I mean, that looking for high THC, that's very much so a leftover from prohibition. When you wanted to have the highest alcohol content, THC content, because it's cheaper to transport.
Right.
Like you're not really enjoying. I mean, the flavor and the aroma, that's going to be in the terpene profile. And there's no shame on Everclear Punch.
Yeah.
Like, if that's what rings your bell, then that's what rings your bell.
Now, I know you're a chef, so
but a lot of folks, I mean, I'm in it for the beauty of the artistry, celebrating the artist and how their mastery of their techniques, and I think that's beautiful, and that's what I want to celebrate.
Yeah.
Do I like getting really stoned sometimes? Absolutely.
Yeah, that feels good.
It feels very good, but I choose to, I'll go about it a little differently rather than looking for Everclear or the highest THC content of whatever, because.
So I know you're a chef, and I feel like this can really translate into people that are wanting to infuse their food. Talk a little bit about your other business too.
Well, I've been doing catering for a long time, and one of the things that we've been doing we've been looking at doing once legalization, once we're legally allowed to do that, is doing paired and infused dinners. So really, cannabis as part of that gustatory experience, how cannabis pairs beautifully the flavors of cannabis, and enjoying those along with food. As far as infusions go, when you heat cannabis, most of the terpenes are in fact lost in the infusion process. You can cook with a live rosin, but you would want to make sure that it was activated.
Awesome.
Before you,
Okay.
excuse me. So,
Any other thoughts that you have about your kit or what you want to express about being involved with this incredible event today of seeing all these women in cannabis?
I've had the great honor of knowing Nekima since the late aughts, when we worked at the University of St. Thomas together.
Awesome.
And then I had the great honor of having her counsel during the police brutality riots in 2020. She is, I fangirl her pretty hard.
Yeah, she's an
and
incredible
have been
leader
for a minute. Mm-hmm. So to have her entering the cannabis space it's a wish that I didn't know I had.
Yeah, and to bring us all together, right?
Oh my gosh, yes.
Where we can support each other.
That's her strength is community building.
Yeah, for sure.
And leadership.
Yeah.
And so I'm just squee.
Totally.
I get stuttery and nerdery, and
that's
when
okay.
I fangirl people.
That's okay.
I'm a huge fangirl.
Yeah.
Of
Same. She's an incredible leader. One last time, tell my audience where they can find you. And terpenetastingkit.com is my URL. I'm on Instagram, also Terpene Tasting Kit. The kits are for sale at Cannajoy in South Minneapolis, and also at Greener Gardens in Richfield. So awesome.
Please. Oh, and on Etsy. But you have to go to. I'm basically shadow banned on everything, so.
Which is another reason why we need to support each other and lift each other up, right?
But I am working with a national group to get. So we need this language. We need to have. Just as when I was growing up, beer came in light and dark. And that's how old I am. And wine came in red and white. And through language, through our adoption of shared language, we can now we have the language to ask for and receive things like Pinot Noir and Pinot Grigio and Pilsners and IPAs. So it's really the language of craft.
Yes.
That detail. And that's what terpenes are. So it's coming. It's coming.
Awesome. Well, thank you for that really important work.
So currently I am doing a lot of catering, private meal stuff for people, developing some different like products, and kind of just chilling. Honestly.
That's
currently.
through High Flora?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Awesome.
Yeah, we also have Root to Rise,
Okay.
which is the catering.
Okay.
And yeah, we had the restaurant for a while. Since it's closed, it's kind of just a nice time for me to just get everything in order. I have a lot of stuff, so I've been kind of going through selling stuff,
Sure.
minimalizing my life.
Yeah. And it's hard to launch businesses like that right now, especially with the uncertainty of the OCM. We just
Yes.
really don't know what the rules are going to be.
Right.
And so it's sad to see different things kind of going to the wayside because they're waiting and waiting and waiting all this time
Right.
to get things up and going. So I'm glad to see you navigating that.
Yeah.
What other avenues are you hoping to branch out into, and how are you still continuing to service the community?
Well, you know, I'm kind of just going with the flow. I know for sure I want to develop some products. So I've been kind of like looking into that, figuring things out there. Doing events. I have been working with another wonderful woman in the industry, and we won't talk about it a lot right now.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're holding some events. We're going to be doing some things together, and just kind of.
I'm really excited to see that because I remember visiting High Flora and thinking, God, this is a beautiful space. So
Yeah.
you just really created a nice vibe for people to come into, very warm and welcoming, and like a place where people could be safe accessing their medicine, and like not just accessing their medicine, but like having a really delicious meal and having something interesting set before them, and being like to unveil that.
It's really important for me to, I don't know, like you want entertainment in life, you know, you want something fun and exciting to go out to and to do. And so just creating like the NA space and having that exciting, you know, go out feel with kind of like a more chill like environment, so you're just comfortable.
Yeah.
Was important. Yeah, and that's kind of what I want to do. I went to school originally for design, and I love designing things. So I'm having fun designing like product and like all of those things. But I also really like designing spaces and like creating a vibe.
Yeah.
So yeah, we'll see where I end up. But
Yeah. What's one of the biggest challenges women face in the cannabis industry? Or what's been one that you've faced?
Yeah, I mean, there's several challenges I've faced for a variety of reasons. Women in general, I think, just have a harder time in life.
Here.
It is a man's world. So, yeah, I think it's just, you know, that's a lot to get into.
Yeah.
But without saying too much, it's hard. It's hard for us.
Yeah.
And you kind of have to be loud with your voice.
Yes.
And you got to kind of push your way in.
Yes, you do.
And, you know, sometimes that's not always pretty. And
Yeah.
so,
Which is one of the reasons why I feel like we need events like this,
Yeah.
because we can be ourselves in this space,
yes.
and we can show up for each other, and we can show that we can have big voices, and that's okay, right?
Yeah.
And so we can be safe to practice with each other for when we have to go out into a bigger community and do those exact same things, right? So
Yeah, super
thank you for
important.
what you do.
Yeah. And this is a great event so far.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's going to continue to be wonderful, but lots of familiar faces here and just super welcoming. So I'm excited to see what they have going on. I heard Lachelle's doing a cooking demo soon.
Yeah, give us a sneak peek of what you might be working on. Just a sneak.
Yeah. So essentially, I want to do like a line of drinks,
Okay.
but not like the canned drinks. So that's been like a hard navigation, just figuring
Sure.
out how to do that with like rules, not being concrete yet.
Right.
So essentially, I want to do, you know, some herbal drinks with THC and some herbal drinks without THC,
Okay.
and have those available. Also want to continue doing the catering and event things. A space, like another brick and mortar space, would be
Okay.
would be fun. I don't want to be solely responsible for it.
Yeah.
That was a lot.
Sure.
And I just want to work with other people.
Yeah.
You know, and I can give what I'm good at.
Yeah.
And then they can contribute what they're good at.
For
and,
sure.
You know, we can all collaborate like it should be anyways.
Yeah, for sure. I love it. And again, that's why we're here, because we are good at certain things, but then we also need to delegate certain things too.
Yeah.
Like, I do not know a freaking thing about social media and how to make a good marketing campaign. So I have someone that helps me with that, right?
That surprises me.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. But yeah, so we all need help.
Yeah, we do. Awesome. What was one of the things that you did to get prepared for the event?
So for this event, I don't have like a lot that I can talk about or come out with right now. Mm-hmm. So I just got like a little table together of like some things that I had and things that I'm doing now, which I'm doing catering, and I'm working like privately with people one-on-one about like meal planning, and then some other herbal, like, medicine type things for them. And so I'm just planning to talk with people about that and like see where that leads me.
Yeah.
And,
I just want to applaud you, because I feel like, maybe having to close the restaurant was like a really big hit.
Yeah.
And I see you not just like staying afloat, but like really trying to thrive through that and grow. And I admire you for that.
Thank you.
And I see you, and I'm really excited for the things that you have coming up.
Yeah. It's not always a bad thing to have to like shut one door and keep moving.
Exactly.
Life is all about just exploring.
Yeah,
and
for sure.
There's lots of different things to explore. So.
Awesome.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Me too.
Yeah.
So one last time, tell my audience where they can find you.
So what am I looking into? This one?
Yes, this one here.
Okay, cool. So you can find us on Instagram. It's like my biggest place that I go. I haven't been posting a lot, but Hi Flora. Or Root to Rise Foundation, and then Hi Flora Restaurant on Instagram. Reach out. You can email heather@roottoriseskitchen.com if you have questions, if you want any meal prep or catering or other herbal things.
Awesome.
I've been into food synchronicity a lot.
Oh, what is this?
So it's like certain foods are supposed to be like eaten together, consumed together to like make your body function at its absolute best.
Awesome.
And so I'm kind of getting into like a lot of that. I wrote a paper on it a few years ago.
Okay.
And then I stopped, opened Hi Flora, and now I'm getting back into it. So I've been doing a lot of studying on what foods to put with what and make them still taste good.
Yeah, I love that, because I feel like that falls in line with how we support our endocannabinoid system, right?
Yes.
So yeah, great work.
Yeah. So all healing, healing and medicine.
Awesome. Thank you again for your time, Heather.
Yeah, of course.
I mean, I first started using cannabis in high school and had a myriad of experiences from, total panic attack to, oh, this is actually really nice, and found like the dosage that was right for me, but then went on to have kids and kind of fell away from that world because it was hard to access cannabis at the time.
Right.
Fast forward to 2019, a shop in Minnesota opened with CBD products, and a friend of mine introduced me to other cannabinoids as an option to help address anxiety. Mm-hmm. And I fell in love with cannabis all over again from a different perspective, as kind of a medicinal botanical instead of a drug.
Right.
So I kind of had a new relationship with cannabis at that point.
Awesome.
Fast forward to 2016, started having some health issues that very quickly evolved into a really crappy introduction into perimenopause, where I realized that there were very few resources around perimenopause, women's health, that I was, the symptoms I was experiencing as far as like resources, practitioners who would actually believe me, and then treatments.
Right.
It was really bad. You know, I ended up getting a full uterine ablation after 6 months with an IUD that caused constant bleeding. I was incapacitated, couldn't get out of bed. My ferritin was at a 7. I had no oxygen. You know, it was just like, it shouldn't have to be that hard, was kind of the realization that I had. And 100%. Then I also started talking to my friends about it and realized that I definitely wasn't unique. That women were really struggling through this chapter. And it shouldn't have to be that way. And so at the same time, I was working with some local cannabis brands as a consultant and realized 2 things. That one, the soccer moms, so to speak, you know, as a generalization, were using cannabis to try to cut back on alcohol, but also to try to address some of these symptoms they were experiencing. And then secondly, there weren't a lot of brands talking to them as like, this is a solution that you can use to help with joint pain, back pain, you know, tension headaches, sleep problems, focus issues, all of these things that we were really struggling through. And sometimes turning to more alcohol just to get that dopamine rush or serotonin rush, which wasn't leading to actual results, you know? So putting the 2 together and having an opportunity to work with a local farm up in Otsego, it was really important to me to build a brand for women and focus our recipes on addressing the symptoms of perimenopause and menopause.
Awesome. So tell me a little bit about how your product line and how it's created for women.
Yeah, so our topicals are all whole plant CBD as well as other botanical infusions. We make all of those infusions ourselves, and they're all whole flower. So for instance, like for every roller, our joint rollers, we start with whole flower CBD, organic cacao butter, and then whole flower arnica. And then from there, each recipe has a different botanical blend and essential oil blend to help address symptoms like cramping, arthritic pain, other joint pain, muscle pain, and tension. One is warming, one is cooling, one is extra strength.
Perfect.
We have tested our chill roller on an active hot flash. And it was effective. And quelled the hot flash. And so now we recommend usage for hot flashes with our chill roller on the back of the neck, which is super exciting. And then our gummies are we have 3 gummies: Rage Cage, Dialed In, and Nightcap. And all 3 of them are microdosed with 2.5 milligrams of THC. They all also have an additional cannabinoid. So our Rage Cage has CBD, our Nightcap has CBN, our Dialed In has CBG, and then each also has a profile of other functional ingredients, adaptogens like L-theanine, valerian, passion flower, ashwagandha, depending on the type. So we really wanted to create gummies that gave the effect that the person was looking for. So whether it was sleep support, focus support, or, you know, those feelings that you have when you want to evict your whole family. That's me. I needed that.
Rage Cage.
Yeah, I needed that.
I feel like I might need that one too.
Yeah. That seems to be the most popular, so you're not alone.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So you have a really great variety of products, and I like that you are being intentional about the products that aren't necessarily going to cause like a euphoria too. You have the topicals, and hopefully maybe do some R&D and looking to like suppositories. I think those are always really helpful for people in a myriad of ways, whether it be to cure or assist in like vaginal dryness, so things that would come up during menopause, right? Or cramping, you know, like through actually a woman's lifespan that could be used. So thank you for that great work.
Yeah, totally. We are in development of our lube, which we're actually referring to as the slip, because it is more than a lube. It does help to promote blood flow, as well as help to provide comfort from vaginal dryness, not just when it comes to sex, but ongoing, you know, vaginal health. So we're really excited about that, and just a more open conversation about it, like why the ingredients are helpful, why it doesn't have to be so torturous. And I heard yesterday from another women's wellness voice, and I can't think of who it was. I think it was at an event in Kansas City, and she said, "An orgasm a day keeps the doctor away."
Right?
And I was like,
and more
yes.
than one is welcome too.
Yes. I'm like, thank you. So we will be, when we launch our lube, we will also be launching with a hot pink vibrator.
Perfect.
Yeah.
I love it.
But I think the suppository is a great idea.
Yeah.
I need to do more research on that.
Yeah, I'd really love to see the development of like patches as well.
Oh, awesome.
So like dermal patches where, specific areas, like similar to like a lidocaine patch, right?
Sure.
Where
sure.
people could apply a THC product directly to a part of their body that is, has arthritis or whatever it may be.
That's awesome.
Yeah. What's been the most exciting part about participating in a women's event? Like, we don't get to do this very often, right?
Totally. I think the energy is just different. Any women's event that I do, I don't know how to explain it. There's this access to our vulnerability that is so powerful. Like I've already cried twice today at this event, but it's not because, we're overly emotional. It's because we have access to this level of power that is so moving.
Well, and we're in a place that's safe,
100%.
You look across
Yeah.
the aisle from you and you see another woman that's out here doing their business, or trying to get access to their medicine. And you're just like, okay, I know I'm in a good spot. I'm where I'm supposed to be, right?
100%. And I think that I don't, personally, I'm overly unapologetic. Like, if I'm in a room of all businessmen, and I have plenty who can attest to this, talking about VEEK, I'm sure to make sure I talk about my own uterine issues.
Yeah, make them uncomfortable.
Well, and I'm like, we're all going to become close friends here, because
Right.
this is the reality of what women go through. And that period of time of perimenopause can be 10 to 15 years. It's
Right.
not just the year before menopause. So
Right.
what are we doing? But to your point, when you get into a room that's all women, it's already understood. And so you don't have to cut through the bullshit. It's just immediate access to that shared experience and power. So it's awesome. I think what Dope Roots is doing is phenomenal and genuinely inspiring. So I hope to be a part of it for a long time.
What are some of the challenges that you face in developing VEEK, and what would be a piece of advice that you could give to another woman that wants to enter this space?
That's a great question. I think one of the challenges that I've experienced is really a lack of resources in the cannabis space specifically. When it comes to things like setting up your bank account or getting approved by a pay processor or content that's okay on social media or your website. And there seems to be this regulatory approach that feels like, there's nothing that says you can't do that. And then you do it. And then it's like, no, you can't do that. Of course you can't do that. What did you think why did you think you could do that? So I think my advice, as it pertains to that kind of ominous, oh God, is somebody going to come down and, close our business?
Yeah.
Is just to not move forward in fear, but try to surround yourself by the people who are making it their job to learn what the insurance rules are and what the legalities are from a business perspective. Really seek out those resources and then do the best you can to follow them and be ready to pivot where you need to.
Exactly. That's exactly what I was going to follow up with. I think in this industry, you have to be able to move quickly. You have to have more than one idea being generated at one time. So kudos to you and hats off.
Thank you.
Congratulations on the new launch.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm really excited to delve more into your products and to be able to recommend them to people because they are much needed.
Thank you, Molly.
Yeah.
That means a lot.
Yeah. What else do you want my audience to know about VEEK?
I think, the universe that we're creating with VEEK around perimenopause, menopause, and beyond. And, sometimes we say from your first cramp to your last joint pain, because this really starts well before perimenopause, is just that you're not alone. And it doesn't have to be, I want to say shitty, but I don't know if I can swear.
You can say it.
It doesn't have to be shitty. Like, it doesn't have to be. You're not alone. And there are options. And we also want to do our part in supporting the practitioners out there, the doctors, the OBs, the nurses, who know what they're talking about from a medical perspective and are willing to listen and are willing to do the hormonal work and, whatever, finding the solution that's right for you to really help at the root of the issue. In the meantime, we're going to make you feel less shitty. Yeah. So we don't claim to cure perimenopause or menopause or anything like that. But we really want to help elevate those voices while creating a community where women can show up and share their experience and find what they need.
And to be fair, menopause isn't something that needs to be cured, right?
100%.
It's about symptom management, right? And
totally.
how can I go through the world and feel good?
That's it. So, and it is really about, we mean what we say when it's empower your evolution. And it's, same with pregnancy and childbirth. Like, we shouldn't feel like we're a victim of that experience.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful experience.
Yes, it is.
And so is perimenopause. So is menopause. The gift of being able to pass wisdom onto the next generation, to become that matriarchal goddess, is needed.
Yeah.
Society needs it. And 100%. So we don't have to be the victim of it. We can feel better and we can have a community around it.
Margie, you have just touched my heart. Seriously.
Thank you.
Lastly, tell my audience where they can find you and access your products.
Yeah. So you can find us at VEEK Wellness on all socials. Our website is www.veekwellness.com. We do sell direct to consumer, but we're working really hard to get into stores, chiropractors, functional medicine doctors all across the Twin Cities, as well as any state who will have us. So we're working on it.
Let me know how I can support you through accessing the medical community too, because
that's everything to us. That's where we want to be. Seriously.
Yeah. We need to work together, because the more we do, the more women are going to be serviced and empowered and be able to work through those things, all those beautiful things that you mentioned about going through their lifespan. So thank you, Margie, again, so much for the work that you're doing.
Thank you.
So we are Rasta Teas hot and barbecue sauces. And we also have the pot sauce, which is essentially, it's 5 milligrams a teaspoon. So it's almost like a dose, essentially. And we have our sauce, proceeds from our sauce support our Million Meal March, where we're on the march to feed 1 million people.
Awesome.
And you can follow that journey online. We're at like 55,000 now.
Okay.
So we're just busting through the pot sauce.
That's awesome. What inspired that mission?
Well, flavor, really, because there's so much tasteless food out there.
Yeah.
And it just gotta have the sauce.
Yeah.
Would you like to try some?
I would love to. And tell me about where cannabis comes in.
Well, cannabis really, so sauce and cannabis, I feel like they really go together. Flavors, munchies, plants, health, all of that.
100%. Okay, so tell me what you have here, what you've brought today.
So we have the Bayou Classic. This is the vinegar garlic salt profile, So vinegar garlic salt. So essentially that kind of is inspired through New Orleans, because my partner is Pediatric from New Orleans.
Okay.
And this is his, this is the recipe.
Okay, awesome.
And then this one is the sweet smoky barbecue, which has like that dark brown sugar molasses. And all of our sauces are non-GMO, no fructose or thickeners. So it's real basic ingredients, real clean ingredients.
Okay.
And they just come together and they're just pleased.
So tell me about how a person would utilize this. Set it up for me.
It goes on everything, let's just say.
Set it up for me. So we're going to try one of these chips. Yep. Talk me through it.
Okay, so you go ahead and have a chip. Well,
Okay.
I think we'll do the vinegar garlic salt one
perfect.
first. And then we'll finish with the dessert. I like to call. Okay, go ahead, have a chip.
Okay, great.
Please.
All right, so I take a chip.
Yep. And
This
then
can be used on chips, veggies,
eggs,
eggs.
everything.
Okay.
It goes on
right, it
everything.
goes on everything.
Macaroni and cheese, pizza. I even had some on my Jimmy John's today.
Nice.
Yeah.
There's a kick to it.
There is a little
Yeah.
bit. But it doesn't last forever.
Okay.
It's made with the Fresno pepper, so it won't last forever.
Okay.
It'll just-
I like hot stuff.
Okay.
But yeah, so what do you
How
have?
does
What
that
else do you
feel?
have?
How does that feel?
It feels good.
Does it
Yeah.
taste good?
Yeah.
Yeah.
How much is like a dose of cannabis? And I think you said a teaspoon.
So a teaspoon.
A teaspoon. Okay.
So per teaspoon is 5 milligrams per teaspoon, per serving, which is a teaspoon essentially.
So are these different now? So this feels more like a tincture, almost like a dropper to me. And then these feel like something like a jar of barbecue sauce that I can pour on something.
So for compliancy issues, it needs to be in a dark bottle with a doser.
Oh, gotcha.
So that's how
Okay.
this is how we make it happen.
What's the next one?
The next one is going to be our sweet hot pot and barbecue.
Okay, so this is the dessert now?
Yeah,
Okay.
I think so.
Okay.
I mean, it'll finish it off.
Okay, cool.
Dee-dee-dee.
Ooh, awesome.
And this one goes on all the good things too. So your
Okay.
meats, your...
What's been the most exciting part of participating in the Women in Cannabis event for you?
I just love engaging with women who are in cannabis, doing their thing. And I just, right?
I like that one a lot.
Yeah. Isn't it good?
Yes, that is super good.
Yep. That's the hot pot and barbecue.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's tasty. So just like getting engaged with people in the community.
Yeah, really engaging and getting to know people's story and like what inspires them.
Yeah.
And just really making connections because we have to live interdependently. And the best way to do that is through events like this.
What inspired you
To
start this brand?
I have to have flavor on my food.
Yeah.
And I need it also to fit in my purse sometimes.
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah.
Like Beyonce, right?
Yeah. Sure.
She carries her hot sauce with her wherever she goes.
I do too. And I love the pocket size hot sauces because then you can bring them on the plane,
Yeah,
wherever, and then food is not always guaranteed to taste great.
sure.
The hot sauce always sets it
Yeah.
off.
Well, and yours is even better than Beyonce's because yours has cannabis added to it, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And there's no, like I said, there's no thickeners, no fructose. It's just real basic clean ingredients that are mixed together perfectly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What have been some of the challenges in creating this brand for you?
Well, definitely every step of the way,
Yeah.
just really building step by step and finding out what works, what doesn't work, what changes. So sometimes the laws change.
Yeah.
So, and everything that you've set up and established is now no longer a viable product.
Right.
Has to be all rethought about, all repackaged. Has been an ever learning process.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
How are you navigating some of those challenges, and what piece of advice would you give to other women trying to enter this space?
Lots of grace and ease.
Yeah, right?
Like just patience for me. Because sometimes I get just carried away, right? Because you want to have it now, you want it to be done now. You have this vision and you want it to happen fast. Doesn't always happen like that.
Yeah.
It's that constant building.
What is your own personal relationship with cannabis like, and how is that just like a natural fit for like what you're doing now?
Well, I am a yogi, herbalist, lover of earth, plants,
Yeah.
and medicine.
I could tell your energy right away. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's how it fits.
Okay.
Flavor, capsaicin, super good for you all the time.
Right.
Cannabis, great way to get it
Is there a specific way that cannabis and capsaicin work together in a person's body? I'm interested in that,
question.
right? Yeah, right?
I wonder.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to note to self that one.
Yeah.
I imagine it's if capsaicin circulates, brings about circulation, I wonder if it helps to move the cannabis through the endocannabinoids.
It's got to, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I love that. It's like
I love
almost
that
like
question.
a little spark behind it that really gives you good uptake and like feelings right away. So
I'm gonna have to look into that. I love that question.
Please do.
I have to do the research.
That molasses stuff, that is so good.
Ain't it
So
though?
can you like give us a little insight into like a secret recipe? Like what's in there that
That's what
makes
I'm
it so
saying.
delicious?
That's what I'm telling you, girl. It's basic ingredients. Like if you look at the ingredients, there's like maybe 8 ingredients.
okay.
But the way that it's spun up is just a real magical thing.
Yeah. How
Yeah.
did you come up with the formulations?
So like I said, my partner, he is from New Orleans, Pee Wee Dread, and he's so Creole.
Is he a chef?
No, but his grandma would always make him sample the food and
Okay.
and so he really grew up at the table learning about flavors and
Okay.
optimizing flavors, and he absolutely refuses to eat flavorless food.
Yeah.
So
I would love to be a little fly in the wall in that test kitchen,
Right.
as it was getting developed, because
Yeah.
that is some delicious stuff right
Isn't it
there.
though?
Yeah, it's really good.
That's the thing.
Yeah.
We enjoy it. We have it
Awesome.
on our table all
Okay.
the time.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Tell my audience what else you want to know about, what else you want them to know about Rasta Teas.
Well, besides our Million Meal March, we have a bunch of events coming up to look forward to. Pee Wee Dread, who is a local reggae artist of the Dread I Dread. I'm not sure if you're familiar.
I am familiar with them.
Yeah. And so there's always upcoming shows. And if you follow us on Instagram, Rasta Teas _entertainment,
Awesome.
then you can find out where all the shows are. We actually have a couple 419, 420 shows that are really going to be a lot of fun, which I'm really
Perfect.
looking forward to.
Yeah.
And then our April 10th, which is going to have the Roots Within, a bunch of bands, but it's going to be a really good time
Okay.
too.
I do actually want to hear more about the organization that you're working with.
Yeah.
So please tell me about that passion project.
The Million Meal March?
Yes.
Yeah. So we're on the march to feed 1 million people.
Okay.
And we just do it locally and nationally. So we contribute to Feeding America, the Dorothy Day Center.
Awesome.
So we use proceeds, a portion of the proceeds, all the time.
I'd love to hear you mention the Dorothy Day Center, because that's near and dear to our hearts, right? You're
Right.
servicing our own community through
Right.
that. And I just want to tell you,
Yeah.
thank you for doing that really important work.
Yeah.
I am a person that works at a local urban hospital, and we see a lot of people come from the Dorothy Day Center, and they're hungry. And so I know that there's a really great need there.
Yeah.
And I just, again, want to thank you for that really great work.
Yeah. It's definitely a passion, but it's with purpose,
Yeah.
because it sucks to see the suffering.
It does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we do everything that we can
Awesome.
in our community.
So one last time, just tell my audience where they can find you.
Yep. So we are Rasta Teas, ENT.com, Rasta Teas Entertainment on Instagram, Rasta Teas Hot and Barbecue Sauces on Facebook, and just type in Rasta Teas.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Get some.
Well,
Get some.
Get some. Get some.
Get
This
sauced.
stuff, yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a banger.
Yeah, it is a banger for sure. It's a great word for it. So thank you again, Mercy,
Of
for your
course.
time. I love your brand. I'm super excited to see what else there is to come.
Yes, we
Yeah.
look forward to
Yeah.
expanding more and more and more.
Perfect.
Thank you for
Perfect.
the opportunity,
Yeah,
Molly.
of
I
course.
appreciate it.
Yeah.
I was just talking with someone, asked me, how did your company get the name? Ceres or Ceres is the Roman goddess of agriculture, kind of a mother figure. But what people don't know is Ceres was actually a nurse that I worked with on the front lines, and she was really instrumental in helping me with a patient was passing, and that wasn't something I had training in, and had trained myself to do end-of-life care. And she was actually with me with my first passing. And I thought, if I ever leave frontline nursing, bedside nursing, I wanted to honor her in some way. And so that's how the company got its name. And just really have always loved plant medicine, plants. I'm a farm girl at heart from Wisconsin, and had always had, my dad would always give us our little row of carrots or, peas or whatever. So I always have loved plants. And my brother is a veteran with PTSD, and he's out in California. And so he taught me a lot about cannabis. So it just kind of was a natural fit for me. And then I love the science of it, of course, and developing, formulating my own products. So
yeah, awesome. Yeah. I like how you take your real life experiences and the ways that you've seen cannabis impact people and really translate that into something tangible that other people can use and be more widespread. So thank you for that work. Break down your product line a little bit for us. What do you have for offerings for people that want to access cannabis?
Yeah, so when I first started a few years ago, I had more of a broad product offerings. And now what I'm doing is really dialing in on topicals. I love topicals, especially for our mature clients, our older folks who are users. They are often on a number of medications. And so topicals, of course, is safer, when somebody's on polypharmacy. So really honing in, dialing in my formulations. I've got a balm that I love, and I'm reformulating that. So I'll have the original CBD and then a little extra THC to make that a little bit stronger for people. A quick dry roll-on gel, which is targeted relief. I've got a woman's product that I love, Passion. This is my passion project. That's a lube, arousal oil. We've got some bath products, different things like that. And then recently acquired another brand of edibles. So that will stay under its own edible line. Okay. So we've got something for everybody.
Yeah. I heard from one of the other vendors today, and I heard about how very intentional they were about starting off in those really low doses. So they're making an edible that's even 2.5.
Oh, I love that.
I do too, because I feel like we always want to give people a good experience so that they'll come back and they'll see the benefits of it right away versus having a bad experience and then being like, no, I don't want to try that again.
Yeah.
You know?
Just like Nekima was saying, and we were chanting at the beginning.
I heard.
Start low, go slow.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's like if everyone had that mantra, we could have a lot of people with a lot better experiences instead of giving grandma a 10 milligram drink and then,
Yeah.
So.
And then she sleeps for 3 days.
Yeah. Exactly. You get a little older, you just metabolize a little bit differently. And
what I like about your products is this is actually something that can be used at the bedside. Yeah. Because it's very discreet. It's something that's not going to cause euphoria. So, your family member or something could come in if you're waiting, to be seen by the gastroenterologist, and you're waiting. Like, think about my job. There's people that are waiting in the emergency department for hours, and they'll see all these specialists while they're waiting. And if you're waiting and you're sitting on the cart and it's like, oh, my hips are, so sore, something like a balm or could be beneficial for that.
Yeah. We were, my dad recently had influenza over the holidays, and we were 2 full days in the ER on a stretcher, and his back hurt so bad. So to your point, you can take that out of your bag and, and again, because in older people, those topicals are safe. They're going to get relief. It's nice.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think, that's always one of the fears for people is that they don't want to have that high feeling. And so it's good to, always keep banging that drum. There's plenty of cannabis products that you can access that aren't going to make you feel high, right? And that aren't even THC. I mean, there's so many things that you can access.
Yeah, I was talking to someone here earlier about the number of cannabinoids we have and how, depending on the day, your needs can change. You might have a day where you need a little bit of support concentrating, and so like my medicine cabinet is interesting because it's got, the CBD, CBG, a little CBC, and cannabis medicine is so great because you can just pick and choose how you feel on the day. It's so personalized, and that's what I love about it. We've conditioned our patients for years that I'm in charge of your health. And what I love about cannabis, it's like you're in charge of your health.
Exactly.
And I'm just a supporter,
Exactly.
I'm just a guide.
Right.
And so I think we're shifting into times where people are really enjoying a little bit more autonomy.
Yeah.
And also just, the societal changes in healthcare, where, we're in times where there's a shortage of personnel, right? And so just the societal shifting of patients are going to be sort of taking their power back and feel more empowered, like it used to be, So
Yeah, I mean, it should always be, whatever your recommended treatment plan, it should always be a conversation that you're having with your doctor, and that should be ongoing based on the kinds of questions that you have that come up, and then your comfortability with what they're suggesting or recommending for you. Like there's got to be alternatives to just the one. This is what we recommend. This is what you need to do.
Yeah, I think one of the challenges I see, because that is how I coach people, is, if you're going to be taking a sleeping cannabinoid, every night, talk with your provider about it. And 2 people asked me, well, my doctor doesn't know anything about cannabis. So that's the tricky area that we're seeing. And that's why cannabis nurses are so important, and other,
Agreed.
the ganjiers and the folks who are out educating, is we really need to make ourselves visible and accessible to people so that we can continue to bring them the resources they need to, inform themselves, educate themselves. But I also think over the next several years, Minnesota will be seeing clinics open where there are providers there who are cannabis trained providers. And
I hope so.
I'm really excited about that.
Me too.
I'm meeting a lot of nurses coming up that want to get into cannabis. They're asking how to start.
Yep.
What programs to consider, who they can connect with who might know a little bit more about the profession.
What do you tell them?
Well, we have a pretty tight nurse network.
Yeah, we do.
I often just pass cards, names around, grab a coffee with people if I can, and find some time. That was really something that was meaningful to me, that other women in the industry were willing to step forward as a mentor and to share their knowledge versus, I know the people, I know the things, and I'm going to hold that tightly, So I like to support people as much as I can.
We can't gatekeep. As women. We need to be able to share resources, share wisdom and knowledge, and really just support each other through this, because it's already hard enough coming into this business where it's $1 billion industry. Some people are in it for the right reasons. Some people aren't. They're in it for a money grab, So I think from what I found anyway, when I gravitate towards women and get into relationships and collaborations with women, that's where I find the most support back. So
yeah, I always, I think there's such a movement of people going back to their roots in terms of, I can't tell you the number of women I've talked to who are looking at living in smaller communities with collaborations. And I think so much about the medicine people, the medicine, or the medicine woman or man, or the shaman of the community, And so I think of it, my role as sort of a modern version of that. My great grandmother, I think of her often because she was the one in the neighborhood who would wash the dead. she would help with the newborn babies or even assist with a birth. And that's always been important to me. And that was one of the reasons why I chose nursing as a profession. And I love our profession because you can be at the bedside, you could be, seeing patients in a clinic, you can be in your kitchen making products, educating people. One thing I'm really passionate about is nurse burnout and supporting nurses who are leaving traditional roles. And so I'm really, really passionate about connecting with those women and lending a hand and support when I can. There's a long recovery from burnout, and so that's really important for me to help nurses have that self check-in of when am I crossing the line from being tired to being burned out, because the burnout recovery takes so long.
That's actually something that really touches me personally. I think, you hear a lot of people talk about how COVID was really impactful for them as bedside providers. And I got to a point, Lynn, where I couldn't look people in the eye anymore, and it wasn't like this long drawn out thing. I mean, it was like fire. It was like a combustion. It happened so quickly. And it was just like something I couldn't even I was reeling from it. And thank God for cannabis, because it was the only thing that allowed me to go home and pause and be able to reflect and being like, you're gonna get through this, so yeah, I think that's important. And I think it's something that really nurses, it's a common thread, right? However they experience that. And I know you have too.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm getting a little choked
That's
up.
okay.
Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
It was hard. So many of us have struggled, and it's kind of the sisterhood of you just look a nurse in the eye and you just go, yep, I see where they're at and I've been there and I'm on the other side of it now, where, when you start to recover from that burnout, burnout is really the dehumanizing aspect of when you're really in deep burnout, you almost don't see other people as human. You're just completely cut off and numb from
100%.
who you are and what makes you special. And so to recover from burnout is really a reclaiming who you are at a soul level. And it's really sacred work.
It is.
And there's not much understanding of recovery from clinical burnout. We're learning more about post-traumatic stress disorder in nurses because we're being forced to learn more about that.
Absolutely.
And how we've learned from some of our veterans. But nurse PTSD, there's some similarities, but it's difficult.
Yeah, it
and
is.
We're in sort of uncharted territory.
Yeah.
A pandemic is different than a nurse who maybe served in Vietnam or Afghanistan, but the similarities between nurses and veterans, we both have elevated suicide risks, and I think that's something that people don't talk about that much is the suicide risk for healthcare providers and particularly nurses.
Thank you for saying that too, because I think it's in the helping professions, right? So it's doctors, it's social workers, it's teachers, it's medics, it's, physical therapists. We all experience these things that most people on a day-to-day basis do not see. We really see the human aspects of people. We see them at their worst. And sometimes we're able to affect change for them and help them get through those times. And sometimes we're not. And in those moments when we're not able to help, we're not able to do the work that we were called to do, that's when we struggle.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And I think that's such a hard lesson for nurses in particularly, is, those life lessons that you learn. The boundary lesson, I always tell people the boundary lesson is the hardest, because as nurses, we just want to soothe and heal, and sometimes you need to just take a step back, and because really their body is doing the healing,
right?
Their spirit, their mind is doing the healing. We just assist, and are there in that time of need, presence is so powerful, right?
It is, yep, to be present in the moment. Talk about some of the unique challenges, because I face these too as a nurse that's done bedside care all of their life. How you translate that into becoming an entrepreneur?
That is a great question. I think I have always loved being an entrepreneur. From the time I was really little, I would be picking raspberries and then be out selling those raspberries, you know, on the road, the country roadside where there were no cars, of course. You know, we'd come home with the raspberries and my mom would make jam.
Right.
From the time I was really young, I always had business ideas and wanted to do my business ideas. My first business idea was a coffee shop. Did I ever tell you that?
Maybe.
Yeah, my sister lived in Seattle.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, so we would fly out to Seattle, and I told my little brother, we should bring that coffee here. And so we actually incorporated, this is long before Caribou or anything
Starbucks.
like that. Yeah, we didn't have any of that here. And I would knock on doors. I would think I was 23. I'd knock on doors and try to sell my concept of gourmet coffee, and they'd be like, lady, nobody in Minnesota is ever going to drink that, and you should just, so I gave up, you know. And then but then of course, you know, I'm practicing nursing, and I'd be like, I could make that vial better so that you wouldn't accidentally draw up the potassium, you know, as somebody puts potassium in with the normal saline.
Exactly.
And I was like, why aren't these different colors? You know? Anyway, so
it's finding a problem and solving it, right? Okay.
Yeah, exactly. And so when I was first a nurse practitioner, there was a problem because I couldn't find a job anywhere. It's almost 30 years ago now, and no one knew what a nurse practitioner was, what we did, that we could prescribe medicine treatment plans. And I couldn't find a job, and I thought, what am I going to do? And so I decided to print up some business cards and just, again, start knocking on doors. And I did a lot of education. Hey doc, when's the last time you had a vacation? Did you know someone like me could fill in for your practice? And I started getting little side gigs and side hustles, and pretty soon turned that into a business idea. And had, oh gosh, by the time I sold my company, I think I had 65 employees, 50 different states. I learned so much about business and kind of an MBA trial by fire. So I had that company 15 years, and I learned, you know, you're only as good as your team.
Yeah.
And it is the truth. You know, no one is an island, and you get to a point in entrepreneurship where you're doing all the jobs and it's really stressful, and that is the point where it gets where you know you need to bring someone on. That's a challenging part of any build. And cannabis is unlike any other business. Right. I mean, it's more risky.
Ever changing.
It's changing rapidly.
There's a lot at stake. I think there's, you know, it's a $1 billion business. It's a $1 billion industry. So
yeah, different than healthcare too, in
Right.
terms of the personalities that are involved. To your point, how you said earlier, a lot of people are in it for money, green rush. Healthcare, it's just different, you know.
Well, and we have so many stigmas to break through, right? So for the last, 100 years, we've been looking at this plant medicine as an illicit drug, really, that has the same properties as heroin.
Yeah.
Right? So just bringing that back, dialing that back and being like, no, actually, this isn't at all like heroin, right?
Yeah.
No one's going to become physically addicted to it. There's no lethal dose. It can be helpful in a myriad of things, and it's all about learning how your personal relationship needs to be developed with it.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting because there is so much stigma still in medicine, and lack of knowledge on the provider part, especially I see, and I think about, who fought the hardest to keep cannabis available was the medical association. They fought so hard against removing that from the pharmacopoeia, and it's interesting when you talk to physicians in particular, they don't remember that part of history. You know, it's like you guys used to prescribe this all the time.
Right.
You know, but morphine, we keep morphine, and cannabis is removed. So
Yeah, sad, right?
yes, and you know, the media it's been interesting to watch all these documentaries coming forward on OxyContin, you know, the rise.
Sanglers.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Opioid epidemic.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mhm.
How so? Tell me.
Just, I think the public had no idea how the pressure that prescribers were under to prescribe morphine and OxyContin.
Sure.
You know, I mean, I'm mature enough where I remember them coming into my office and telling me why I needed to go to those big gun drugs, you know, when, you know, now I know just a little bit of cannabis, they would have been fine,
Right.
you know. So
It's crazy to me how they developed that tool, also the pain scale, right?
yeah.
So when you see that pain scale, like that's something that they came up with. And so I feel like as cannabis has more research around it, people are kind of gravitating towards, you know, having a more natural or having a treatment plan that's, you know, they're more in control of. Hopefully we'll see more tools like that come out that are tangible and applicable to the bedside, because I think that's where there's a huge gap, Lynn.
yeah,
you
I'd
know,
love to work
like
on
me-
things like that.
Me and you know the benefits of cannabis, right? But like we can't talk about it at the bedside,
Yeah.
or we feel weird talking about it at the bedside, or you
Yeah.
know, like we're gonna be in trouble. So
Yeah, there's so many mature people here though in age. Like I've talked to so many this morning, and they're becoming more open about their cannabis use. I've been asking a ton of grandmas this morning, tell me about your cannabis use.
yeah,
And they're like, oh, I use whatever, you know, and you know, they've got their favorite little gummy or their, you know, their beverage, you know. So it's been interesting to have the conversations about beverages in particular, because so many of them are 10 milligrams, right?
nice,
Yeah.
yeah. Tell me how the North Bloom is supporting women in the cannabis space.
Yeah, so the North Bloom magazine founded, you know, our editor, myself, we're women. And particularly in issue 1, when you open that table of contents, you see mainly women writers, and Mark Waller is in there.
Yeah,
You know?
and Mark Waller.
Yeah, he's great. You know, he's a big supporter of women.
Yes, he is.
Yeah, so really our mission is to, you know, just like Nekima here, you know, just have visibility for women-owned brands, people who don't often get press time.
Yeah,
So
I love that. Thank you. Anything else that you would want my audience to know about either Cirrus Medical or the North Bloom? What's new? What's coming up? What do you got? What are you cooking?
well, I think all of us have application hangover this week.
Right,
I
right.
mean, everyone I've talked to is like, oh yeah, I pulled 3 all-nighters trying to get my application in. So, you know, I think just taking a beat, taking a minute. We're working on our spring issue of Bloom, and so that will be focusing on sleep and growth. So we're really excited about that. We're just kind of, you know, building that all out.
Awesome.
Yeah, and then just dialing in, you know, kind of looking at my product line, seeing where maybe I can add some things. Yeah.
Cool.
So.
Okay. All right. So tell my audience where they can find your products.
Yeah, so right now we're online, sarahsmedical.com. We're out and about at shows. We are working with a couple different dispensaries to get our new product line, the Garden Gummy wellness line. So we'll be putting that on Instagram and letting people know where to find those products.
And the North Bloom?
We are building out our stockist list, so Canna Joy is always a good place to find. Eco Gardens, St. Paul, Minneapolis, right on the border there. Earl Giles, of course, they're a huge supporter of Bloom.
And if you want to see the North Bloom in your doctor's office, reach out to Lynn so that we can make that happen.
Yeah, we definitely are working on more wellness shops, more clinician offices. I believe someone took the magazine to oncology office. Yeah, so it's definitely making its way around town.
As
So,
it should.
Yeah.
Yeah, it needs to be out there. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you, Lynn, for your time
Thank
today.
you.
It's always a pleasure sitting down with you and hearing all these great stories. And I love you so
I love you
much.
too.
In the Women's Cannabis Collective, we're just around to, as Veronica loves to say, and it's kind of our motto, is giving women a space to show the fuck up.
Okay.
Yep. And it started as a place for women to show the fuck up in more event spaces, much like this, where it was otherwise inaccessible. But that's grown a little bit. We need a space for women to show the fuck up professionally, personally, and really be able to dominate the space where we should be dominating.
Yeah,
so
right.
Empowerment through education, advocacy, empowerment, professionalism, just a bunch of different areas that women do not spend or have access to up their game.
One of the things that I've always kind of envisioned, and it's not my organization, but one of the things that I always thought where the collective could be very impactful is with the women that join, there could be like seminars offering how to manage your SEOs or how to go and apply for business credit, or, like supporting them through the business process where they might experience obstacles or just fear because they don't know what to do. And, maybe they're new entrepreneurs. And so does the collective have anything like that coming on board? Talk, girl.
Yes, we do. So we're getting ready to launch memberships. And with the memberships, we will be hosting monthly networking, and it is all about professional development. And it's about really coming into the space and learning to step into the space and showing up. Again, showing up comes with SEO, right? How do you be the best business person you can be? And especially because a lot of the resources out here, it's hard to get at, especially as women in the space in cannabis. As soon as they hear cannabis, they're like, okay.
It's like an extra level of, something that you have to navigate even before you step into the room as a woman, right?
Yeah, it is. It is. And it's learning also that women, we need to be seen, right? We need to be seen, and this allows us to be seen, and it allows us to see ourselves.
Yeah.
I think that's the biggest thing is with the collective, we're allowing women to see themselves and the power that they carry and the value added that they have in this industry, because we have a lot of value.
Right.
And making sure we recognize that and can see that in ourselves.
Yeah. One of the other people that I interviewed earlier, Heather from Flora, talked exactly about that, to your point, is that it's okay for us to step into a space and have a big voice, right? Like we need to recognize that and feel empowered to do those things, right? So go ahead.
I'd love to just add that oftentimes we're looked at as, strictly emotional beings, and really showing women how to balance that power and emotion all at the same time, right?
Why does it have to be a bad thing if we're emotional, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. No one says anything to a guy, oh, hey, don't show passion about what you're doing over there, right?
Right.
So,
right. And I think that we need to be able to show the world that we can be boss bitches too.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I want to walk in my pussy power.
Yes.
Okay.
Like all day, every day. Yep. I want to do business in pussy power. If it doesn't turn me on, it's not going to be for me.
Right. It's not for me. Nope. Exactly.
Nope. I need to feel the tingle.
Yeah. Yeah. So one of the things too that spoken with Jamie about before is sometimes as women, when we go through this, we face challenges with each other, right? And so I think that there needs to be a safe place where we can have a difficult conversation with another business owner, and that's okay. And we don't have to, we can walk away from it too, not maybe seeing eye to eye, but at least understanding the other person's perspective. So is the collective going to allow for like mixers and things where we can really like get to know each other? Because I think those are the things that break those barriers down, kind of, you know? If you can get to know someone on a human level.
Yeah, and I think that as membership gets larger and larger, you know, we'll have these monthly networking connections. So that is a space to really build rapport with other women who are in business and in the space. But it's also, yeah, we'll be having some fun mixers too. I mean, play is very important in power.
Yes, it is.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. If you're not having fun with what you're doing, like, what are you even doing it for?
Correct.
Right?
Yep. So it's important, you know, yeah, we'll be having some fun mixers that aren't always about like, how can we show up for our best self, you know, but being able to mix some play in there and really get to know people from a level that's not necessarily business standpoints, because it is important to know someone authentically as well.
Yeah. I always struggle, like when I go to like Lucky Lee, for example, a couple of weeks ago, you know, I'm talking shop at the after party. It's like, what? Shut up. Stop talking about business at the party. You know, it's like such a downer, but like those are the ways that we find connection with people. And yeah, I just want to thank you guys for just making that space available. Are you prepared to talk about the launch of like membership and how that's all going to kind of break down, or is that still in the works?
Everything is in the works.
Okay.
We've settled on pricing. I'm hoping and we'll be launching in the next month or so.
Okay.
Just really getting everything solidified and our website solidified.
What kind of women are you inviting to be a part of the collective?
All women.
All women, right? Yeah, of course you are.
We want all of you.
Yeah.
We want every single one of you.
Well, and I love the aspect of like someone that's brand new in business versus someone that's like launched, you know, $1 million campaigns or, you know, has a big brand all ready to go, and to be able to share that experience.
Exactly.
Yeah,
that's like
it.
the whole ecosystem of it, right?
Sure.
We don't want from just the start. We want to have everyone, so then you can have that mentorship. You can have people that who haven't been there have that.
Right.
Because that's the whole point of empowerment too, and what we're doing here.
Yeah.
To kind of create that womanhood.
Yeah, for sure.
Right?
I think it's also important to be able to meet every woman where they're at in their journey. When I came into this space, like I didn't know anyone, women or men, but then swiftly found myself surrounded by men, right?
Yeah.
And to ask a man how to, you know, do something so mundane and starting a business is just, for me, you know, I had to spend a lot of time behind the scenes just learning myself.
Yeah.
And maybe it's some stubbornness that I don't want to ask a man, but also at the same time, like nowadays I would. But it's just very intimidating. So creating a space for a woman who is looking for many different things. I mean, we want to be able to be a support system for everyone, wherever they're at in their journey.
Right. How important are events like these? Pivotal, right?
Pivotal, yes.
Especially the way Nekima has done it, right? That whole woman buying experience, right? Even this panel, this education revolved around it. Everything has been thought out, beautifully executed, and we've been able to create a safe space to have conversations. Right. And that is what's going to really help destigmatize the plant, because at the end of the day, we still have a lot of work that we are doing to destigmatize this plant.
Yeah, for sure. I love the message that's come through right from the very beginning of the event. You know, if you're new to cannabis, let's make sure that you have an enjoyable experience so that you're not turned off. So let's start low, let's go slow. ask people, network, but get to form relationships with people. Know who is selling you a product. Know what that product is about. You know, that's where you really lean into starting that very personal relationship that you're going to develop with cannabis. So, yeah.
I love it.
Any other thoughts on that? I lost it, Gabe.
I think you nailed it.
What else can we do to support women in this industry and as new users, consumers coming in?
I think what we talked about on the panel was a lot about also looking at the products that you're picking up.
Right.
Where are they coming from? Who's making them? Do you support the mission that's on it?
Yeah.
Right? That's really, I think it's the best way. And when you are picking up those products, support the women, right? Support the women.
I feel like that's one of the threads really that's been consistent through the women-owned brands is that there's a real ethos behind what they do, right? It's not this big money grab. Like, of course, everyone wants to make money. Of course, I want to be able to leave bedside nursing one day, right? Like, there's also that, but like the purpose and the mission behind why we do things and how we honor the plant as a female and how we carry that forward into the plant to the consumer, like it's just there when women are present. So yeah, really is. Awesome. Okay, where can my audience find you guys? And is the collective only for business owners?
We want all women.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, even if you're starting to think about forming a business, it's a great place to get resources.
It is.
Right?
It's a wonderful place to get resources, mentorship, connections. You can find us on Instagram. We are MN Women's Cannabis Collective. And then you can also find us at mnwcc.net. Is it com? Is it net? Should I look that up real quick?
One of those two. Yeah, right? I know. It's a lot of stimulation. Absolutely, we can. We absolutely can.
Can we cut this like MNWCC?
No, this is
MNWCC.com.
No, this is all outtakes. So just keep rolling, keep going with it. Yeah, no, we're gonna get you guys set up because what you're doing is really important. So thank you for the important work that you're doing around women specifically in cannabis because we need it. You know, we need to form stronger bonds with each other. We need to form networks for each other. And we need to walk in our fucking pussy power.
Yes.
Okay?
Yeah.
So everyone, finally, the moment has come when I get to sit down with the woman of the hour, Nekima Levy Armstrong. Thank you so much, founder. And man, I can't even go through all of the accolades that you have behind your name and all the things that you've been instrumental in leadership in. But thank you so much for this event. It's been beautiful.
Thank you. You're going to make me cry at the start of
I want to see you cry.
Our time together because I'm just overwhelmed and just grateful for everything that happened here today. Mm-hmm. The sense of community and purpose and belonging.
Yeah.
That's how every space should be.
Yeah, for sure. Talk a little bit more about that. Why is that important to you?
Well, it's important to me because we live in a very polarizing society. Mm-hmm. And there's so much division and so much othering that it is difficult to find spaces where you feel that you can just be yourself and be respected and valued. And so I felt that for everyone here, multi-generational, multiracial, people from different walks of life all coming together and being in community together. It was like the outside world didn't matter today.
Yeah.
And that was beautiful.
Yeah.
To witness and experience and to see women being centered. Yeah. We don't get centered enough in society, period. But specifically in the cannabis industry. We're almost invisible. And I just felt in my spirit that that was unacceptable. And so I just started praying and thinking about, well, what can I do? And I said, well, I can help center women, you know?
Of course.
And thankfully, women were open to that and enthusiastic about it and brought the energy that was needed for this event to be a success.
Couple of great takeaways that I got from some people. I went around and asked them, how's your experience been today? I've talked to participants, you know, people that just came to be a part of the event, or they've came and actually vended. One of the things that I heard from someone was, this is the funnest event I've ever been to.
Wow.
And I was so inspired that the message behind the event was that they want for people, there's a want for people to come in and have a good experience with cannabis. And so that whole chant where they were doing start low, go slow, you know, that was really stuck out to her. And I want to applaud you for that. So tell me about some of the other things that you really wanted to come through today, besides that inclusivity.
I wanted to create a safe space for people who are regular consumers of cannabis, but also people who are curious about cannabis. There's not a lot of places that you can go and ask questions or be stigma-free, you know, in an environment. And so I just thought that that was important. And even bringing alongside of cannabis business owners, women who have businesses that are non-cannabis businesses.
Exactly.
That integration normalizes cannabis, you know, in our society and for women.
Yeah.
You know, to say I can shop here for Thomasina's cashew brittle, I can shop here for some gummies, you know?
Right.
And it was just normal,
Yeah.
you know, in this environment, there was no separation.
Yeah.
And that was beautiful to witness and experience.
One of the other things I want to point out about some of the vendor experiences is that you had vendors in here that aren't typical dose in the market type of vendors. So there was underground people that came and had offerings for people. And I think women, especially when they're wanting to access products, they're not always necessarily looking for a gummy, right? They might be looking for flour. So to have that available to people was really, I was really floored by that and inspired by it. Like, you know, you get it, right? So you get that there's women out here hustling in every facet, and we need to kind of normalize that conversation. So
absolutely.
Yeah. Talk about how you want to work towards breaking down some of those barriers for women in entering the cannabis industry.
I think that it's necessary for us to be intentional about breaking those barriers and not just going along with the status quo. You know, I'm a lawyer, but I'm also an activist. So that activism energy helps me see where there is the status quo, there is a certain line that we've been taught not to cross. And of course, the activist in me is like, well, why not?
Right.
Why can't we get on the other side of that line? Why can't we see what's possible? And so I think that having that energy and those experiences just became a natural fit once I figured out who I wanted to be in this space. And that took me a while. You know, there were things I had to work through in terms of the stigma and in terms of being a lawyer and just, you know, people perceiving me a certain way. And getting to the point within myself to say, I don't care how people perceive me. I have to be me. And I want other people to feel comfortable being their authentic selves and not being judged. Or if they are judged, to be able to say, so what? And I had to get to that point in order to open up or curate a space like this where people could be free to be themselves.
Yeah. One of the things too, and I just want to kind of wrap it with this, is that you talked a lot about having inclusivity, right? You want everyone to feel welcome. And well, I think that's really beautiful. I saw a woman come up to you today and say, thank you for what you've done for us. Another Black woman that stood right in front of you and was like, wow, I really see how intentional you've been about raising the voices of Black and brown people in this space. And just talk a little bit more about how you'd like to go forward and carry that message forward.
Well, I would like for us to continue having dialogues like what we saw today from our panel. And then also, which we had a diverse panel. You know, we had a Black woman on the panel, a Latina on the panel, 2 white women from different walks of life on the panel as well, just showing the breadth and scope of the diversity that exists within the cannabis industry. Even though it's not as diverse as it should be, I feel that we can create a sense of what Dr. King called the beloved community, right? We can do that in any space. And so I wanted us to reimagine what it feels like when you come into a space and you can just be yourself and be welcomed and be embraced, and hear other perspectives that maybe out in the general public you don't get to hear, right? Because there's a stigma, or because this is a male-dominated industry, a white male-dominated industry. Right. Our voices are not heard as often as they should. Yeah. But at the same time, I've come to a place where I realize we can't wait on someone to open the door for us. Right. We have to create our own magic.
But how about kick it down?
Kick it down, right. Or say, I don't want to go through that door anyway. Why don't we create our own door? Yeah, right. Sure. And that's what you're doing with your Conversations with Kush podcast. Thank you. No, seriously, you are creating another world that people can live in and learn within and be a part of, right? Yeah. And to me, that is transformational. Yeah. You know?
Just to piggyback off that, one other thing that I heard someone come up to you and say was, you know, thank you for providing a space where it shows that we can interact with the plant in a variety of ways, right? We can use it as a source of medicine. We can use it as a source of pleasure. We can, you know, there's all these different ways that we can interact with it. And all of those ways are okay. Absolutely. You know, and maybe we can even open up our mind to looking at it in a way that we haven't thought about yet. So absolutely. Yeah. I just really want to give you kudos to your whole team, to Jada, Kennedy, Amelia, all of the women that you love, that support you, and, you know, your family, your family. This is you can tell this is a family oriented, space that you're trying to create too. Absolutely. And be supported by. So I love that.
Thank you. Yeah. I feel that we're all connected. I'm happy that my biological family, right? The family I go home to. Yeah. They support and embrace my journey in this space as an entrepreneur and as someone who pours love into what I do, but also seeing that we have chosen family, right? We're all connected in one way or the other. Yeah. And a lot of the barriers that society has placed are just illusions at the end of the day. Yeah. So the more we can break down those walls and get real with each other, be in community with each other, love on each other, the better our world will be in our society and for the next generation.
Here. Yeah, for sure. Tell me anything that you'd really like to get across that we haven't really touched on yet. I want to definitely have you back for a longer conversation about Dope Roots. You know, come onto the podcast and talk all about your brand and like some of the things that you've gone through to help develop that along. But today to me was really about this event and this beautiful thing that you've done. Tell my audience what you want to know about this event and how you plan to kind of carry that forward.
Well, I loved the idea of having a space where we center the experiences of women, both on the cannabis business side, but also for everyday, ordinary women, right? Who either consume cannabis publicly or secretly, or who are curious. Right. And the fact that we could all come together in this space and feel our feminine energy and embrace our feminine energy, I thought was really important. Because most of the time when we have events, you know, there is usually a man who has curated the space, and there's not necessarily intentionality around women in the space, right? We just kind of go and we blend in because that's what we're used to doing in this society. But I figured, why can't we create a space for us?
Exactly.
You know, for us, by us. Yeah. And that's what today really symbolized. And just to see the level of diversity amongst the women, right? Different ages, different backgrounds, different levels of how they engage, you know, within the industry and how they use the plant and see the plant and interact with the plant and share it with others was so powerful to witness.
Awesome. Lastly, tell my audience where they can get those fucking delicious cookies. Because those are so good.
Honestly, when I'm like, I'm just saying, like, they are really good.
They are really good, people.
But that's what I was going for, right? Because, you know, I grew up in California and I visit my family regularly there who still live there. And when I go to dispensaries there, if I order cookies, they're usually hard. They usually taste like cannabis.
Right.
And I was saying to myself, you know, these cookies should taste like my grandma made them.
Exactly.
Right. My grandma was a cafeteria lady and I would see her using her hands to bake from scratch. And I picked that up and I took that for granted, you know, because I went down the legal track and people would ask me to bake, but I never took it seriously as a gift until I started to do research around cannabis. And until I had those experiences where I would try cookies that just, there was no love. Right. You know, I'm like, we can do better than this. And then I said, well, I can do better than this. Right. And so that took me on a journey of connecting with the food scientists to create my can of butter, which is what I use for my cookies. And I feel like my grandma is speaking through me.
That comes all the way through. Like that is definitely a cookie that grandma made for you. Yeah. I love it.
That's just a blessing to my soul, you know, because she passed on in 2020 and she was so instrumental in my childhood. And as an adult, it helped me go back and remember the work that my grandmother would do and the love that she would put into her food and into her baking. And for me, I felt like I could tap into that again. As a grown woman, you know, who has lost her grandmother, I feel a bridge to my grandmother through these products and specifically through the cookies.
Well, I know that she's looking down today at you and just is so filled with pride. And thank you for what you've done today. And thank you for what you're bringing to the space because it is much, much needed in many facets, in leadership, in warmth, in, you know, bringing
that feminine touch.
Yeah. Bringing forward all these ideas of like how we can be inclusive and still honor each other. And, you know, just having cannabis sometimes be a conduit to that. And I'm so glad to have met you and again, so honored to just be able to sit next to you in these spaces. It's been incredible. So
I feel the same way. I'm proud of you.
Oh, thank you.
And your pioneering spirit and your creativity and your team.
Thank you.
You guys were incredible going in, documenting, asking questions, you know, and connecting with people. And that is a blessing to me. That's what this space is supposed to do.
Yeah, people need to know about it. Yeah, because I know there's going to be more.
Absolutely. We can't stop here.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah,
we got to keep going and creating more spaces like this.
For sure.
You know, that are for us, by us.
Yeah, I'm fire, girl. Got it.
Thank you.
All right. So that's it for Conversations with Kush podcast today. I am Molly, the Kush RN, signing off.